The ammo shortage situation here in this country just got worse. Due to recent events that have occurred, we know things are going to continue on through 2021 and probably even get more difficult than they are right now. So stick around for the rest of the video. We're going to talk about why this ammo shortage situation is getting worse. We're going to talk about other things that are being pushed upon us that are going to push other people into the form of panic buying that we've seen already throughout 2020. And we're going to talk about whether or not a manufacturer can come up with an idea that might actually help solve some of this problem. Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and today we're talking about the ammo shortage situation here in the United States getting worse and worse. And we know it's going to get worse due to some recent events that have occurred. And we all know what just happened when it comes to the Georgia runoff elections. And with the House and the Senate and the White House all turning blue, we know that the Second Amendment is going to be under attack. And we know that a lot of people are going to feel that way, and they're going to act upon it using their wallets. And there's going to be a huge push for gun sales, firearm sales of all kinds when it comes to accessories, when it comes to buying everything related to things people are worried they might not be able to have come this new administration. And unfortunately, some of the Capitol chaos we just recently saw is also going to push people to purchase ammunition and purchase firearms due to the concept of civil unrest, due to the concept of possible civil conflict, and due to the concept that those people have now been painted with a broad brush as being everyone that has a Second Amendment affiliation, and there's going to be a reason and a justification now for why some of these laws need to be passed, thanks to what happened at the Capitol recently. Now, that's how things are going to be painted. That's not necessarily my opinion on the situation, but we all know how the media and how those who are going to be in control here soon are going to utilize that situation to their benefit. Okay, so the ammo shortage situation is severely revolving around self-defense rounds of common calibers. And of course, when I say that, what I mean is your obvious ones, 9mm, 45, 5.56, 308, all those different rounds are definitely affected by the ammo shortage, and they're affected by it a little bit more because those are the types of firearms that people are buying. In 2020, 8.4 million people bought their guns for the first time, okay? So that is huge, and that's awesome to have all these new gun owners enter the market and enter the realm of Second Amendment appreciation. However, that's still 8.4 million more people that need to buy ammunition than were buying it before. So that's a huge increase in demand. Not to mention the additional 23 million guns in general that were sold throughout the year of 2020 as well. So even the firearms owners who had guns before are probably adding some new calibers to their collection, which means that they have to add different types of ammunition to their collection, which means they're buying up ammo as well. Now, the ammo shortage is going to last, and we know it's going to last because of the things that are going to be pushed on us here soon in the sense of restricting the Second Amendment. And we all saw what happened during the Obama years, and we know that Obama was considered one of the best gun salesmen ever to exist. However, that should tell you that we're entering another era similar to that, where ammunition and firearm sales are going to continually grow due to the concept of concern around lack of excess, okay? So, one thing you have to understand is that if you're worried about ammo shortages and you're preparing for whatever might happen in 2021, especially with how volatile it's started in the sense of everything else going on that we've been watching, then hit the subscribe button below, because honestly, this ammo shortage is going to last, and I'll try my best to keep you updated on it, but we all know that these things can just keep going further and further, especially when this snowball effect starts to happen. And we're in a situation now where some new legislation and regulations are going to actually push more and more people into purchasing more and more, which is just going to keep the demand rising and keep the supply small, and it's going to become a very difficult situation here very soon, I assume. Anyway, during the Obama years, we experienced ammo shortages as well, okay? In late 2008, all the way to the end of 2010, we were in a shortage because he was elected and people were worried about what he was going to do in the sense of restricting the Second Amendment, and people went out and bought tons and tons of firearms and ammunition. So that shortage lasted almost 2 years, okay? And right now, the one we're in isn't even necessarily a year old. So understand that this shortage can last a while. Manufacturers are saying things like, well, it should start clearing up around the summer of 2021, right? Well, they also were saying 8 months ago that it should start clearing up around January 1st, 2021. And now you even have people coming out saying, well, it's probably going to last all the way through 2021. So you need to prepare for it to go even longer than that, because honestly, we know they're just trying their best to give us projections, and they're trying their best to show that they're working their hardest to get ahead of the demand. But in a way, there's only so much they can do because they only have so much manufacturing capability. That's just how it works. So that being said, there was another shortage during the Obama years in 2012. We all know what caused that shortage. We all know why those restrictions that seemed imminent at the time pushed people into having to buy and panic buy and everything else that was happening there. Of course, you all remember 22 long rifle being non-existent for a long period of time. Now that shortage lasted into 2013. So even that spike in a shortage was still almost a year in the making. So that's something else to consider when planning on how long this one's going to last. But some other things are going to keep pushing this shortage even further into 2021 and pushing more and more people to escalate the demand due to some of the incoming administration's concepts about what they want to do in the sense of gun control, okay? And one of those things is the banning of online ammunition sales. So if that all comes to pass and we all see it on the horizon where that is going to make its way through legislation and become the rule of the land, you can imagine that online ammo sales are going to skyrocket to new levels that they've never been at before, right before all that legislation goes through. So you have to understand all these distributors like Midway USA and Brownells and all these other guys online are going to sell everything they have, because once they're not allowed to sell online anymore, it's not good business for them to have all this extra inventory. And at the same time, people are going to want to get all the specialty calibers and loadings and everything else that you can get online that you might not be able to get at your local store, and they want to get it now before they know they can't get it anymore. So that's going to be an issue, especially if you're buying stuff like, let's say, Underwood ammo, okay? Awesome ammunition, hard to find in your local sporting goods store, and so there you go. You're going to need to get that stuff now, and then that concept is going to push everybody who needs that type of ammo to go on and just start buying the crap out of it. So the online sales thing is going to push this shortage even further into 2021 and probably beyond, okay? Now, the next part of that is that some of the components we've all been trying to acquire when it comes to reloading and stuff is also some of the issue why the manufacturers can't get ahead of getting out more ammunition. It's especially related to the primers. Now, something you got to consider is that 100 primers used to be able to buy for like $3. And so 30 bucks would get you about 1,000 primers. Well, 1,000 primers for 30 bucks is a lot of possible or potential rounds of ammunition that to get 1,000 rounds of would cost you a lot more money. So it's easy to acquire like the primers and those components in the sense of quantity over buying actual loaded rounds. And so when people started buying up primers and when manufacturers had to start stepping up their ability to produce, those components went the quickest because you can afford to stockpile tens of thousands of primers much easier than you can afford to stockpile tens of thousands of live rounds of ammunition. So those components are also missing, which is still something everyone's trying to get caught up on. So that's going to continually push the shortage further, okay? So the other thing you have to understand is that there's incoming firearms bans on their way that are going to also increase demand. This is not going to end. This is not quickly being resolved anytime soon, unless there is maybe a solution that we can talk about here in a second. But the incoming firearms bans that they're trying to introduce are going to push firearms sales even further, which is going to increase demand of ammunition, because I'm sure many of these gun owners who are going to be buying some of these firearms don't currently own some of the ones that they're going to be worried about not having access to, and that means they're going to need more and more of that type of ammunition because they won't probably have any yet until they acquire that firearm. And when I say that, the incoming gun bans are obviously related to basically semi-automatics in many ways, and we can take a look at the Canadian gun ban that went into place just last year and say, okay, so what did they do and what is our government trying to do? Because according to the website of Mr. Biden, he wants to make sure there's no way for manufacturers to circumvent the law in order to produce similar firearms that they're trying to ban that are not affected by the ban. And this is something you need to keep in mind. And what does that mean? Well, just for a quick demonstration, this is a AR10 chambered in 308, right? So great. This is definitely something that they're looking at because it's an AR platform, has all the scary features. This is a problem, okay? So this is what they want to get rid of in many ways. But in the past, they got rid of things like this AR10 because of all these features it has, and obviously it doesn't belong in the hands of the civilian population and people's opinions that don't have any education on what's happening here. But that being said, when you look at the Canadian gun ban and you try to understand where these people are trying to go with things, well, something that wasn't affected previously, and especially even in states like California, was something like this M1A, which is the civilian M14 variant. And the M14 doesn't have all the scary features. So you still have a semi-automatic 308 rifle that, doesn't have all the scary stuff on it. So therefore, these were still allowed. Well, now they're going to try to say that this isn't going to work either because, this is circumventing what it is they're trying to do. And Canada did this by specifically naming the M14 as something that the civilians are no longer allowed to own. Rather than just saying you can't own certain types of firearms, they're going to actually start naming manufacturers, brands, and models so that you know for sure exactly what you can or can't have. And so in the past, and even in states like California, an M1A was still something that you could grab and have without having to have anything crazy attached to it, like a bullet button or any of that kind of crazy stuff. But I would expect things like this to be on the docket now, whereas in the past, you didn't really have to worry about them as much. And that being said, when things like this M1A are going to be looked at and attacked, and things like that AR10 are going to be looked at and attacked, people who don't have either one of them right now are going to wonder if it's something they need to pick up before this becomes an issue. And that is going to push more and more people into buying more and more ammunition, because if you don't have a 308, suddenly you're going to need a lot of 308. And guess what? 308, not the easiest thing to get now, is it? So, just wanted to demonstrate that concept because it's another reason why the shortage is going to last and go further and further. What can we do about it? What's really the answer here? Well, I can just say that there's really no universal perfect answer. And obviously getting ahead of demand with supply is the answer of capitalism, right? Unfortunately, the manufacturers are doing the best they can, cranking out as much ammunition as they can, and they still just can't keep up with demand because there's only so many resources, and there's only so much manpower, and there's only so much manufacturing capability. But I will say, we can take a lesson from Hornady. And what they did is a possibility of how you can try to solve some of this crisis. What they did is they released a brand new ammunition. We all know about it, 6mm ARC, right? They released a brand new ammunition, put a lot of hype behind it, okay? For good reason, but a lot of hype behind it, and released the ammunition onto the market before components that were chambered in that round and before firearms that were chambered in that round were even available. And by doing so, at least for a little bit, you could find 6mm ARC on the shelf stacked high because no one in the area owned a 6mm ARC. Nobody had a rifle chambered in it. Nobody had the ability to use it. So it sat there for a minute. And then things started to catch up. And barrels started becoming more available, and firearms started becoming more available, and people started getting 6mm ARC guns, and then suddenly needed to buy 6mm ARC ammunition. So we can take a lesson from that and think about what other manufacturers could possibly do here. You can take pre-existing rounds, something that's not as popular, get something that's chambered in it, ready to go, and start pushing it out there. Or create a new round, like the 6mm ARC, put it out on the market before the firearms are available, and basically make an artificial, I guess I would say, high supply of that ammunition for a short time. And that's something that Hornady just did, and it lasted for a little bit. And in fact, in my area, which is North Dakota, to be fair, low population, I understand, I can still buy the crap out of 6mm ARC. So, just one solution that might be a possibility, especially for new gun owners who want something like an AR and are worried about it not being able to be purchased maybe something like that is important for those people, even if it's not sustainable in the sense of a common caliber or not in the sense of it being cheap or inexpensive to shoot or to buy. At least you have options of buying that ammunition at that point. So keep that in mind, because that's a solution that might actually help some people out during this process. And if you're a manufacturer watching this video, I hope you think about that, because Hornady just did it. And honestly, I've got a 6mm ARC now. I've got lots of 6mm ARC because it was just sitting there. No one touched it because nobody had a rifle chambered in it yet. So this ammo shortage is going to keep going. It's going to last a long time. Don't get your hopes up and stop listening to people saying it's going to just last till January or it's going to end in the summer. If you look back at just the Obama years alone, the first ammo shortage due to just his election lasted 2 years. And honestly, a lot of what he tried to push through in the sense of gun control and anti-2A legislation didn't make it through and didn't really affect a lot of the things that we were worried about at the time. Unfortunately, in this situation, the House and the Senate and the White House all under Democrat control, and a lot of their agenda being anti-2A, and a lot of what Joe Biden has put out there in the sense of what he wants to accomplish, we do have to actually have some more concern this time around than even last time, which means to me the shortage is going to last longer than last time. So wanted to bring this to your attention, give you something to think about, keep these things in mind. Make sure you still go out and practice. Yes, ammunition's more expensive. Yes, it feels bad to shoot it sometimes when you know there's only a limited supply, but you still need to practice. It's not something that you can just let sit there and hope that one day if you ever need it, you're going to be just fine to use it. Don't do that to yourself. Make sure you still get out there. Doesn't have to be 300 rounds every time you hit the range, but even if you just get a couple magazines through, it's still good for you. It's still good for you to train. So, without anything else to say about how this ammo shortage just got worse and how we know that the events that are currently happening here in 2021 are going to push this thing further and further into the future, that's going to be it for Magic Prep.